Our brothers and our beloved sisters. This is the Godfather here, Mike Side, one more time, sitting here with my brothers. We are Black Men Declare, and we are happy to be here with you in the studio, separated by a few miles, but we know and understand that technology brings us together. We have a very, very exciting discussion that we want to take place with tonight. And we welcome you to go ahead before you even begin the process. Hit that subscription button, hit that like, smash that notification button. You know when we're on one more time. With me tonight is Cyber Key, the truth, and the peacemaker. And we had started this off in our episode one of this particular series, dealing with the morality issues that we face here in America. And tonight we are going to follow up on that initial episode dealing with the founding fathers and how they brought this particular disease, this infection with them from the beginning. And of course, the revisionist history that we have been sold is that this is a Christian nation, or we could say any religion for that matter. But we know we get oftentimes referred to as the Quakers and the Puritans. But at the end of the day, that alone, that one real aspect of American history gives us an indication of how deeply entrenched this disease is. When you think about the concept of morality and religion in and of itself, morality is just my opinion, holds a much higher level of esteem and respect than religion. Religion is something, again, according to the experts, that was created by man. That man had an opportunity after his interface with the creator to come up with different ways of how he might interface with not only himself, but with the creator. And because of that, we then saw across this globe a European colonization process that basically commanded from citizens all over this world that they become theoretically, especially in this Western world, Christians. And so we want to chat about that tonight. How that double mindedness, how that confusion has caused many in the world to be infected today and confused with what we're calling bipolarization in America and around the globe. We're going to start off with just a few very concise opening comments from each one of our panelists and then get deeper into our conversation for this evening. Cyber Key, how does this particular subject matter resonate in your spirit?
Peace to my brothers, my colleagues in this fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. What a good day to be on this episode of Black Men Declare and morality versus religion. I'm of the mindset that, as you stated, morality has a very high compass, or very wide compass, and but I'm also of the mindset that if you practice a religion, morality should be at the top of the religious stratosphere. And I think that's where the verses comes in, because a lot of us, we practice religion, but we only saying it to make us feel good and make other people around us feel good. Because if you practice in religion and you don't have any morality, all it's doing is a feel good thing. But when I practice my religion, when I practice religion, morality is at the very top of it, meaning treat other people right. Look out for one another, look out for the poor, things of that nature. That's at the top of my religion. So without morality being at the top of your religion, I don't understand how you could really say that you believe or love God.
Very powerful, very powerful. And Peacemaker, I know you've got a unique perspective on this whole concept of morality versus religion. I tend to agree with Cyber Key that whatever religion you may practice, morality should be at the top of your list. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I know most of us have heard that before in the past. But as you scan the universe, and I know from your background you've had tremendous experience in this area, what makes it so difficult for those of us that may be attached to different religions? What makes it more difficult for us to maintain that high moral standard? Be interested in your comments.
Well, greetings to my sisters and brothers of Black Men Declare. I think what I see is the fact that most people will practice one thing behind out in the view or out in public, but then practice something else different behind closed doors. I have been afforded the opportunity to be behind closed doors and in some offices, and when I hear people who are leaders in all different aspects, not just in the religious arena, they will always say almost that whole fallacy: do as I say and not do as I do. And what happens is a lot of people will get caught, and then they will, instead of admitting and coming to a higher moral ground, they will try to double down and say, no, I'm doing it this way, and this is the way that I ought to do. So I've seen people who are supposed to be great moral leaders, and out in public they are, but behind closed doors they are fractured, very similar to Humpty Dumpty.
Wow, that's kind of a cool analogy, brother. But okay, I'm with you. Truth. When we think about the concept again of morality, when we look at religion, of course, we think of the Ten Commandments. We know it's more than 600 commandments, not just 10. But we think about most recently in the state of Alabama, where one of the judges there, you know, made sure that the Ten Commandments were posted in his courtroom. And we know that across America, theoretically, that Madeline O'Hara led an effort to remove prayer from school and all of that. And her thing, she may have been to the extreme in this morality thing because she felt religion had been used to really enslave the mindset of people. And this religious fervor has indeed been used by those that, as Robert P. Jones has said in the book he written, White Too Long, that that's how people are indoctrinated into this Zionist mentality and this Zionist movement that we have in America, what he called white nationalism versus Christianity. But from your perspective, Brother Truth, what is America doing, or what has happened to America during the course of your life that, I guess the best way I could put it is, has pushed people further away from organized religion versus coming and embracing it more than what it may have been when we were growing up? I'd like to hear your comments.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for being on tonight, and I agree with Cyber Key and the peacemakers on their comments. I think what's driving a lot of, I'm talking young people, away from organized religion is like a forced religion. What they see is like a a bald faced lie. Sometimes I say it like that. They practice, they say one thing, they do another. Love thy brother, as thyself. But what I see is they'll turn a blind eye on the injustices that is happening in the world, and that can drive a lot of young people away. It's like a forced religion. If you don't believe it, you're going to hell. So a lot of young people have said in their mind that, I don't need to, attend organize, be in a church to practice my religion, but the moral standards of America has fallen so far that you have, they look at it and say, why is churches segregated on Sundays? 50% majority of the church is segregated. So young people looking at that say, if God said we are created in his image, why are different people going, separated on a certain a day of the week? So we have become so circular in our walking. We call these United States that organized religion. It seems like it's dwindling, falling away. So I would say again that to be morally right and to practice your religion is you love your brother as thyself. You can see things happening now that we're talking what's happening in this country today. The executive branch is doing this, to disempower people because they say, "I am the chief in charge," and I say that in love.
I would say this, my brothers. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Thanks all of you for those comments. Let's go back to the piece when we had a situation back in the day when there was a slave Bible. And think about it. Now here are these people, they're good people, religious people, good Christians, but the Europeans came up with a slave Bible. And this slave Bible was used to reinforce this concept of we black folks being an inferior race. Now, think about it for a moment. You're at conflict, and that's why you're double-minded. You had a situation there where morality and religion did not come together because you were actually using proactively a process to further enslave and use it as a way to bring compliance to a group of people who had no power, had no power. And so I struggled individually during the course of my life. And you all know my background, born in Mississippi, but grew up in Detroit, then traveled different parts of the United States and did a bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, had a chance to go to several white churches, just to be straight up about it. And doing all of that, I can truly say that I could always detect a spirit, I have to just be straight out, phoniness. Now, I've detected the same spirit in some black churches as well. Let's be clear about that. But my point is, that's that infection of the double mindedness and also this bipolar reality. I mean, cyber, there were Muslims that came over here. Most people don't seem to understand that the United States wasn't just a place of so-called Christians. There were Muslims, and they were very much respected, even by the Europeans. And again, with this process that took place over time, where you were stifling the natural belief systems of even our ancestors when they came over, you are injecting this process of accommodation, assimilation into the minds and the spirit of people. So, Cyber, what do you think it would have been like if you could imagine you growing up, you a son of a father, and you just don't feel it in your spirit, but you seem to hear this European dropping all of this stuff what thou shalt do, yet you're not seeing any validation in the actions of the taskmaster himself. What would a young black brother feel like, you think? Just use our imagination.
Brother, to be honest with you, I don't even have to use an imagination, and here's why. Last year, I had the opportunity, the great opportunity that I prayed for my entire life to visit the continent of Africa, and me and my wife chose to go to Ghana as the first place to that we visit on the continent, and we went to one of the castles, and on that tour, they took us down into the dungeon of one of those castles where they kept the men and the women, of course, separated. And right above that dungeon was the church. You will hear as the guy was giving his exegesis on it, you would hear the slave master that's preparing to take a group of people from their homeland in bondage, may have not eaten or washed in a few days, take them away from their homeland. But yet you would hear him upstairs praising God and thanking God for everything that he assumed God was granting him. Now imagine that bipolarness. You have somebody upstairs praying to God for the blessings and everything, but yet they hold the people downstairs in the dungeon, and those people downstairs in the dungeon praying to God to break free, to become free, to go back to be able to go back to their families. What's the that bipolar reality hit me like a ton of bricks as I stood in that dungeon with those small windows, little air blowing in, and it hit me. The pain, the anguish, the suffering, the crying, the smell, the stench of all of my ancestors just grew right into me. So I don't really have to like imagine it. I was in that dungeon. I felt the presence of some of my ancestors in that dungeon. I felt the presence of my ancestors on that road to the last bath. I felt it. I saw it.
Wow. Man, that's a powerful visualization that you provide, and I appreciate that. Thank you for that. And I remember in Detroit and other places have museums of our ancestors, and when you see how they were packed into those ships like cargo, I mean, if you're a human being, it'll bring tears to your eyes. The most rugged of all people. But Peacemaker, when we think about that, here comes the army or invading group of people. And Daniel Steele wrote the book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. And he said when they came, they gave you an option. You can become theoretically a Christian or be murdered, be butchered. And when we look back at that again, double mindedness, unstable in all your ways, it's no way you can have common sanity when you're doing such as what Cyber just described. And just think of you now, you're that couple and you come to America. Now, mind you, a sidebar, the Europeans stole everything about their religion from Africa. So let's put that in there too. We're not going to deal with that tonight, but let's keep that in mind. So you repackaged the belief system and brought it here to America. Okay, let's do a hypothetical imagination again, Peacemaker. You out there, you feel a call on your life. You feel like God is calling you. This is back in the early days. And now they tell you, okay, you could be a preacher, but here's what you got to say. Don't you see the double man? How do you think a preacher would be feeling, a black preacher, that now he's been told, here's your Bible, here's what you're going to say, and you got the taskmaster sitting in the back listening to what you say? How are you not conflicted in that situation?
Well, you have to be conflicted, but I think you grow a sense of um and I can't really come up with the word right now, but I think you end up growing up or growing with a sense of not caring or self survival. Maybe that's the word that I'm really looking for, self survival, because what you realize is if I'm given a opportunity to better equip me and my family, And that means if I get into this position and only thing I have to do is say these particular words, and that's going to be a better position for my family and I start thinking about my morality start swaying. My mind starts swaying. My mind says, is it going to be my family and I, or are we going to tell the truth? And I think that is the conflict that a lot of our leaders throughout time have dealt with, especially with our leaders coming up through the civil rights movement, coming up where you had the FBI and the CIA asking so-called blacks to spy on other blacks, to get involved or to send people into organizations to spy on them and then report back to them. I see the same situation, the same argument, and I think you that's where the immorality comes in. I think that's when the struggle, and you got to say to yourself, is it worth it? And I'm pretty sure we can discuss it a little later, but of the gentleman who infiltrated the Black Panther movement, and how after a while he kept on doing it, and then after I guess about 10 years or so, then the word is that he committed suicide by feeling all of the guilt of knowing that he sold out such a great movement.
Mm. Wow. Well, we'll get to that one on another episode. But brother Truth, how would you be thinking in terms of you? Let's say you Richard Allen. Cyber gave us this idea. You leaving Africa, coming here, but now you Richard Allen. You here in America, and you hear them having church, and so you want to go because you got a mindset. We all God's children, and when you make an attempt to go to the church to partake in honoring God, worship, devotion, praise, whatever you want to call it, you were told you can't come in. You're not welcome, which led to the establishment of the black church, right? So put yourself in that position. How would possibly he be seeing God in that situation? Could he still believe in God? Or did he then hate the people that were that? We're just speculating. We don't know. But just for, again, to really understand this double-mindedness, could you imagine telling somebody they can't come into your church?
Thank you, Godfather. I can imagine. I'm just sitting here with your question you just asked, and I'm just imagining what Richard Allen went through, reading the Bible. And then even some of the churches he might have went to, it was a separation. It was, no, you have to go up to the upstairs and praising together downstairs. So the reading the Bible for him was like, wow, what a hypocritical bipolar people. He just, I'm just imagining what he saw. And what you just said was so powerful that that's how they came up with the black church, believers, and I'm sitting here thinking what Frederick Douglass said. He went into a church and a young lady said, she went into a vision. She had a dream that she died and went to heaven. And she said she met, came to face with Jesus. And then one lady mentioned, did you see any blacks there? And then the lady said, yeah, they were back in the kitchen. So Frederick Douglass got up and left. He said he never went back to, that church white church or whatever he said. But what I'm getting at, the bipolarism of some of these white churches, white Christians, is not according to the Bible. And I can imagine what Richard Allen said, and he probably preached on that separation, you know, of what Christian are going through, Black Christians. So again, brother, that was a powerful. I'm just imagining because I studied Richard Allen, and I just can imagine a powerful preacher studying the Word of God. Then he saw that no, you can't come in. So that's where we are today. That moral. I'm just saying this, brother. What did the pastor or some of the congregation say? They just stood back and didn't say nothing. And that's what's going on in the church today. We have got so comfortable. You know, we've got our blessing, got the house, got the big car, you know, and that's all we have to, you know, they just sit back and got comfortable. And one of the pastors said, and I think it's so powerful, he said, are you on a cruise ship or are you on a battleship? Yeah, think about it. Cruise ship, you got all of the enjoyments, you relaxing, everything is coming to you. But on the battleship, you're on the battleground. So I say that in love.
Well, brothers, when we thinking about bipolarism, though, I mean, I think cyber has a perspective that's truly, truly intriguing. I mean, when you think about the Muslim faith and how it's practiced here in America, and how Elijah Muhammad and so many others, you know, Malcolm X, Minister Farrakhan, came into a lot of challenge when they share the word, which is, and if you ever check them out, you know, especially Minister Farrakhan, he uses the Bible because the Bible and the Quran, we don't really understand 70-80% of it overlapping. But Cyber, share with us a little bit about that double-mindedness you saw even growing up, because I know you got a unique perspective. You grew up in one faith, now it's in another faith. How have you managed that? How do you manage that? Seeing, I'm sure, oftentimes a drop off in morality, even when people may come to understand and know who you are.
That's a very loaded question, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the question. Growing up, as you said, I grew up a Christian until my mid 20s. I grew up in a home with a grandmother who took me to church, you know, often. You know, the Wednesday night Bible studies, the Sunday services, the revivals. You know, I grew up like that. I grew up strong in the belief. But to me, and it's not an attack on anyone, I don't want anyone to take it as that. I've always struggled with um, people who believe something but couldn't even answer the basic questions. But they will, like my brother Truce mentioned about the young kids running away. That's basically what happened because you see these people first they don't know the questions to the answers that you're presenting to them, and instead of them just being truthful and saying I have to go research, I have to go learn it myself, they shoot you some BS, and now you left even totally more confused. And that's what happened in a lot of churches. And not only that, then you see religious gang banging. You see a lot of gang banging. This church don't like that church. This church right down the street from the other church. They don't want to share. They don't want to get together and make the community better. They rather just stay in their little homes and don't no growth and no anything, you know, in order to come together. So I thank God for my grandmother leaving out a record that she probably didn't even know she left out in the crate. and I found a record, and to make a long story short, it was of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I played that record, and my soul was searching for a long time until I found what I was looking for, and for me, it just happened to be Islam, and Islam freed me from a lot of bondages. But that doesn't say that it doesn't have its own issues. You got Muslims, Orthodox Muslims, saying that this group is not a Muslim because they don't think like us, or this group is not a Muslim because they pray this way, or they wear their pants this way, or they don't have a beard, or they have a beard. Same gang banging. Same gang banging. This mosque don't want to get with this mosque. It's gang banging. But my foundation is the Nation of Islam, and I make no qualms about that. And at least I know that in the Nation of Islam, there is a level of let's try to work this together. We all have faults, and I've heard Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I heard the minister say it, like we all have faults. Y'all sitting out here throwing stones at each other. We all have faults. Let's try to figure this thing out. And so for me, that is a base that I can always work off. I can always work off of, and that's what I've been trying to do since my mid-20s, striving to be who God wants me to be.
Beautiful statement, my brother. And see, in the pursuit of maturity, we hope all of you understand that we all fall short of the glory of God. However, we can still have a moral compass that is leaning as close to righteousness as possible. That should be our objective and our goal, that I want to be as righteous as I can. I'm going to miss the mark sometimes, but my intent, my strategy is to be as close to righteousness as possible. Because we all, I think, want to hear when it's all said and done, that the Father say, well done, and not only that, say, hey, you was a man after my own heart. And we know from reading the word and scripture and all of that, God made that statement about men who had fallen completely short. Let's do this as a last comment for this particular segment. We want to remind our listening audience we will be going through several stages of the bipolarity of America and how it's infected, excuse me, Black folks and other folks. Anybody that live in America, if you live in America, you've been infected. You talk about the pandemic, this pandemic has never left. It's still here. It came here from the beginning. You don't believe me? Go back and look at the history. Millions of people literally died. That was a physical pandemic. They died of diseases that the Europeans brought here. If they did die of that, they died of the guns that they brought here. Okay? I mean, this thing, you can't make this up unless you allow them to revisit history and change it. But brothers, as a closing comment, I guess I'd like each one of you, starting with you, Peacemaker, to share if there was something you could change about, your understanding of morality and religion versus religion, if you're going to create the perfect situation. And we're all hypothesizing, whatever, but we're free thinkers. That's why we're here. What would you do? How would you get that young brother, that young sister to understand that regardless of what you see and hear, you got to have a foundation committed to I'm gonna call righteousness and morality at a minimum. And if you can connect with someone, with a group that is practicing as best as they can, what would you share with a young person?
The thing that I have, great question, and in my closing remarks, something that I have always shared is that I follow the pastor or the leader as they follow the master. I've come to realize that I put no person or no king over my pursuit of my God. I realized that my pursuit is my pursuit, that my lifestyle is my lifestyle. And I say this to a lot of people. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. So I can't really place a judgment on you. But what I can do is help you get to that place where you have a better understanding. We all ought to strive for understanding, ought to strive for uh, discernment, and ought to always strive for righteousness. I heard a preacher this afternoon. He says, not about the left side or the right side, but it's about the center. And the center is where your God is and where your righteousness ought to be. So for me, I'm going to stand in the center.
Powerful. Brother Truth.
Thank you, Brother Godfather. I would say have to talk to a young person have to be where they are. I would not try to throw everything at them. Just talk to them. But first of all, you have to ask them, where they are, following their righteousness, for as the moral, and act right. Don't be a follower, be a leader, and you can go from there. And leave a nugget to them, about acting right. Then they'll start thinking on doing righteous things, because we have a lot of like my brother Cyber Key have said, that you have a lot of questions that has not been answered. So you have to be truthful to them and say, well, let me research this, and they'll respect you for that. I find out young people are very intelligent. They're looking at you the way you act. So I would say to leave a nugget to them that act right. You have a great future ahead of you, and don't talk down to them. If their pants hanging down, you would say, sometimes you have to go with and say, hey, I like the color of your pants, something like that, to try to get in with them. And then you could go from there instead of saying, man, need to pull up your pants. But they'll start getting it. They'll start getting it as you start mentoring to them. They'll start getting. That's one thing about a young person. They'll look at you and see the way you act, out of the church, on the street, and the way you talk to people. And that's the key, how you talk to an individual. And they'll respect you from that, and they'll come back to you. All of a sudden, they'll come back to you with a question. And that's
All
when
right.
you prepared yourself for it. Saying hello.
Amen. Well, from our senior to our junior, how do you see that, Brother Cyber Key?
What I would do, actually, these two verses, one from the Bible, one from the Quran. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That's from the Bible. The Quran says, indeed, Allah commands justice, good conduct, and giving to relatives, and forbid immorality and bad conduct and oppression. He admonishes you that perhaps you will be reminded. So my answer is quite simple. Walk in peace, walk in love, give justice, help people to freedom. You do those things, you're covered.
You covered. I cannot disagree. We just thank you for a beautiful conversation, brothers. And we want our listening audience to know we are brothers that believe in the maturity of the believer. And again, we know that we are not perfect. There are no perfect folks. But at the end of the day, if we can come together and have dialogue, you can too. And we encourage you to have conversation with your family, with your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors about this disease that's just destroying America. This disease of bipolarity and bipolarism is savage. It's always been here. We cannot lie about it. I know there are many that would want to lie about it, but the evidence is overwhelming. And so we invite you to join us as we continue this journey of exposing how it's infected and affected so many of us in America. Want to remind you once again, hit the like button, smash that notification, become a subscriber, share it with your friends, neighbors, co-workers, everybody. This once again is a Godfather, Mike Side, along with Cyber Key, with the Peacemaker, and our brother the Truth, saying join us once again soon, coming back for more on this subject matter. Until the end, Godfather, Mike Side.